Hey, welcome back. I'm Justin,
And I'm Roy.
and this is the Hope Shot. So today's story is something special to me, someone that's special to me. He was my first sponsor when I got into recovery, somebody that actually taught me the word of surrender. Because I remember when I first got in here, he'd always tell me, you need to surrender. And I'm like, what do you mean? And it was funny because like now I know that I've had some time clean that I know what surrender is now. And so today we're going to hear his story and how he found recovery and what it's done for his life. So, Roy?
Thank you. My name's Roy, and my clean date is September 5th, 2014. I was raised in Michigan. My parents were married until I was about 8 years old, and everything was really good until my parents didn't get along anymore. And I can't say my dad was an alcoholic. My mom definitely was not or is not. My dad did go out and drink. I didn't know that though. When you're young, your dad just either is there or isn't. My
Yeah.
mom didn't really tell us what was going on, but there was a lot of fighting, a lot of arguing towards the end. When they got divorced, my mom moved down here to Florida, and all of us kids, there's four of us. I have a sister and two brothers, and we were all given a choice. Do you want to move to Florida with your mom, or do you want to stay here with me? And I was the only one that chose to stay in Michigan with my dad. I loved it up there. It was country, like shooting guns, riding dirt bikes. My dad would let me drive his truck. My dad was my hero. I didn't see any faults in him. He was my baseball coach growing up, mine and my brother's baseball coach, from T-ball, up. And so I chose to stay in Michigan with my dad. My dad had remarried, and they ended up having another kid. And when that happened, and I understand now looking back, in the past, but I was a child. I didn't understand what was going on. I was given a choice, and then that choice was kind of taken away. And so I moved down to Florida. They told me I had to leave. I had to go to Florida. It was best for me and my brothers and my sister and my mom if we were all together.
Now, whose decision was that? Was that your dad's or is it your mom's or
Well, I didn't
both?
know at the time. They had discussed it, but I didn't know. I was in school. It was the middle of the school year. I was in fifth grade, and my stepmom was pregnant, and I didn't know this.
Oh,
Everyone else
gotcha.
knew that, but they were gonna have a baby, and I didn't understand what was going on. I came home from school one day, and the suitcases were underneath the table, the kitchen table, and they said you got to move to Florida with your mom. Um, Part of it was, um, my stepmom. I forgive her now, and I understand because now I'm an adult, and I understand that sometimes you have to make decisions, or people make them. They make mistakes, and she told me that I was misbehaving and they couldn't control me anymore, which wasn't true. I was just a normal kid, and so I moved to Florida, and I actually was in a class with you in
Yeah.
fifth grade. We were actually right across from each other.
It was fun.
And
Miss Voyukis.
no, we had the same class then. Yeah, Miss
Yep.
Boyukas.
Yep.
But when I moved to Florida, I do remember when I was 11 years old, I felt so out of place. It was somewhere new. It was somewhere I didn't want to be, and psychologically, I know at the time I just didn't feel right. Like,
It's funny because like at the same time you were going through that, same time I moved here from West Palm after my parents got divorced.
huh?
We're going through the same thing, same time.
Yeah, and what's crazy is now is looking back, I didn't know it at the time what I was going through. Like mentally, like I don't want to say traumatizing, but it was the beginning of where I felt different from everybody, and I didn't feel like I belonged. As much as my mom tried to make me feel, my mom like, I used to like cry at night because I didn't want to be here. Like I would cry and cry and cry and cry all night long. My mom would just hold me and tell me it's gonna be okay. You'll get used to it. My brothers and my sister definitely. My younger brother and sister didn't make it easy on me. They they like to terrorize me, and I didn't find out that my stepmom was pregnant until after I moved to Florida. And my brother, my little brother, he liked to bring that up to me that, that's why I moved to Florida, that, I wasn't wanted. And to be honest, I felt that way from the moment they told me I had to leave and I didn't have a choice anymore, that I had no choice, that I had to come to Florida. I felt like I wasn't wanted. And so school, I was pretty much like that my whole, every year. I didn't get too close to people, but I played baseball. And that was my thing. Like baseball, I mean, since I can remember 3, 4 years old, I had a baseball bat in my hand. Like my real dad in Michigan built a baseball yard, like a baseball field in our backyard. We lived on a lot of property out in the country. He built a backstop, pitcher's mound, home plate, all the bases. Oh, wow. So my older brother and I, that's all we did. And our friends down the street, a couple of them would come down the road. And so when I moved to Florida and you could play all year round, that's all I did. And that's all I thought about. When I was at school, I wanted to go to practice or a game.
It was your outlet.
It was my outlet to escape. And it's the only thing that really made me feel alive. And so I go into high school and I make a few friends, but I never hung out. I played high school baseball. Like I never got close to anybody though, and I didn't want to listen to anybody really either. I was closed off. I remember it was crazy because I used to walk through the hallways and on the basement, I couldn't look people in the eyes.
I know all about that.
Yeah, and I didn't know why. That's what was so frustrating to me. And not that my life was traumatic or, it was me. It was something inside of me that I felt different, and I didn't understand it. I mean, so I remember when I was 17 and I had made a decision after like my freshman or sophomore year in high school that I was going to dedicate, which I had made that decision when I was 4 or 5 years old, that I wanted to play baseball, and I didn't care how great I got to be, where I ended up. I just wanted to do it, for the rest of my life.
Just wanted to play.
That's all I wanted to do. You coach, play, then coach, and coach kids, whatever it was after. I just wanted to be involved in it. And I remember I made a decision that because I seen other people around me working really hard to get where they were, and they were getting better. So I was like, okay, I need to do it. I dedicated myself, and I saw my older brother too. During like the off season, he took the off season as off and didn't do anything, and people noticed. And he was a really good baseball player too. And like I looked up to him, and I was like, okay, if that can happen to him, it can happen to me next. And so I began to work out in the off season, like run all the time. Like anytime the coach would say do 10, I did 15 or 20, no matter what it was. And I remember it was a game at Ridgewood High School, and I slid into a base. And when I slid into the base, my my knee locked up, and my femur hit my hip, which caused 3 fractured vertebrae. So I broke my back in 1998.
So you was about 16?
I was 16 or 17.
16, 17, yeah.
Yeah, and I broke my back, and I didn't know that at the time. At the time, I lost feeling in my left leg and my left arm, and it was scary.
Yeah.
It was scary.
It sounds like that, especially that young.
Yeah, well, for a moment too, because all playing injuries are a big thing, and I was so scared. My first reaction was like, I hope I can still play. Like, I don't take this away from me. And I believe that was probably my first time that I called out to God. And I remember laying on the field. I blacked out when I slid. It was so much pain. I blacked out. And when I woke up, my coach was behind me, and I was sitting up, and there was people standing around me. And I remember praying, please don't take this from me. Like, I love this.
It's your outlet.
And
it's the only thing you loved.
Yeah, and it's the only thing that I opened up to and got close to emotionally. Playing itself, maybe not the people I played with, but playing itself. And I was upset and I was hurt too, because emotionally, I was mad at something because I was like, I tried to play again and again and again, and it ended up hurting worse. I didn't find out till months down the road that when I had a specialist look at my MRIs that I had 3 fractured vertebrae, and that just emotionally, spiritually, physically, just it took everything out of me. I gave up. At that point, I was like, okay, like I was angry all the time. I definitely didn't want to listen to anybody, and oh, my last year and a half of school, I was taking honors classes. I dropped every one of my honors classes. My teachers did not understand. I was the only one in calculus that had an A in the class, and the teacher was almost upset that I was dropping the class. And I remember my mom asked me, I don't know, I think she was like, she knew something was up with me, so she really didn't push me. You know, my mom's always wanted me to be happy. My mom, you're amazing. Like my mom,
Shout out.
yeah, she's awesome, and she told me if that's what I want to do, and so I turned to just working. And my first job, well, my second job was at a car dealership, and you know that's where I was introduced to drugs. I had prescriptions, and I didn't.
Injuries.
Yeah, I didn't take them though. I didn't take any of the medication. You know, in school I was taught that, you know, crack kills, you know, and that whole big campaign in the 90s was just about crack, you know, and I wasn't educated, you know, and I probably wouldn't have listened anyway.
Well, back then it wasn't really a big thing like it is now.
Yeah, no, it's big now.
It's huge.
And I didn't take my medications. My mom did tell me that be careful with the pain medication. I remember I think I may have taken one in the whole time that I had them. And a couple years later, I was working at the car dealership, and one of the technicians there who, you know, one of my really good friends today, and became one of my best friends, but I started using with him. And I remember he introduced me to pain medication. And the first time that I took it, I wasn't scared. Like, I wasn't scared at all. Like, because if a doctor's prescribing you something,
it's okay.
And I had it prescribed as well, it's okay. It's not going to harm you. And so I took them, and 30 minutes later I was throwing up, and I had to leave sick. I had to tell my boss I was going home sick at the car dealership, and I woke up the next morning, and I was like, okay, well, maybe instead of taking 4, I'll ask him for 3. You know, I just took too many, and I don't even know where that thinking came from, but I do remember thinking to myself that, like, I could control this, and like I didn't feel anything, you know, and I felt like nothing else mattered, and I didn't care what anybody thought. And I was sick, throwing up, and I was still having those feelings like I was invincible.
Well, it's almost like, you know, the love for baseball, and it was taken away, and you're just trying to fill that, trying to find that love again, that void you're trying to fill, and bam.
Yeah,
you know,
whether it was good for me or not, I didn't have any experience with it, you know, and I was still young, you know, I was 18, 19 years old, and that was the beginning of my addiction as well. Is because at the car dealership, I was making, my second year there, I made $68,000.
Oh, wow.
You know, 18, 19 years old, making almost $70,000. The people that knew me back then,
especially back then too.
Yeah, everything in my life I had so that I could show people what I was doing. You know, I had a I had a lowrider, you know, with rims on it, a stereo, all that stuff. Everything that I thought that I wanted. You know, like you said, I was just trying to fill something inside of me, and a lot of it was, you know, outside things.
Yeah.
And I never, besides when I was a kid, like I still, from 16, 17 years old to 19, I didn't know what was going to make me happy. I had no idea what I wanted to do. Well, $70,000 a year at a car dealership, I was like, I can do this forever.
Yeah. I would do the same, especially back then.
Yeah.
98, 99, 2000. I mean, that's good money.
I always had money.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning, though, and I thought it would last forever. My addiction first, it was because I started buying them off the streets, and the people that were selling them to me, like a couple of them had warned me that not to take them every day, because if you did, you would get addicted, and I always said, not me. I'm not, and
I'm different.
I said that those people that get addicted, like, they have a problem.
Yeah.
I can take them every day and I won't get addicted, and I was wrong. And it took a few years, though, because at first it was just on the weekends, and I said I won't do it at work, and little by little I started to do those things that I swore to myself I would never do. And then I started to become late for everything. I wasn't responsible. At the time, now I'm telling you this because I realize it, but back then, I said, I've worked here for 3, 4 years, 5 years. Like, I deserve to be late. I'm the manager. If I want to be late, I will be.
Yeah.
We're still profitable.
Yeah. We're making it okay inside of our heads.
Yeah. I was justifying everything that I did.
Yeah.
And so I lost that job, and it wasn't too long after that. I mean, I didn't lose it. I gave it away. I gave it to him. And I remember walking out of that car dealership telling myself that they were in the wrong, and I didn't want to listen. The people there, a couple of people I was close to, told me, they're like, look, Roy, I know you have a problem. If you want help, you can talk to me, you can call me, you can let me know what's going on, tell me the truth. And I didn't want to tell them that I needed help. I didn't want to ask for help. I didn't think I needed help.
Yeah.
So I wasn't long after that, I was arrested. First time I was arrested, it was, I went from buying a few pills here and there off people to buying them every day, and then buying hundreds at a time because I was making enough money because I didn't want to run out, to doctor shopping.
You don't want to run out.
Yeah.
A couple hundred.
I thought that,
yeah.
A couple hundred, it seemed like it would last a long time. And
No,
I always told myself I only do like 4 or 5 a day.
Yeah.
I told everybody else that too. Like, I got this under control. And I remember sitting at a doctor's office being surrounded by police and agents, and there was a mirror window across the way that we were being watched, and I was sitting there in the back of a cop car, never been arrested, never had a ticket in my life, with handcuffs, sitting like this, thinking my life's over. And that was my first thought, that my life was over. My mom is going to kill me. And she told me, if you ever get arrested for drugs or alcohol, don't call me. And when I got arrested, I knew I was wrong. Like, I knew, I was so scared. I was like, I'm never going to do this again. I'm done. Like, I'm going to go to prison. And I remember my parents bonded me out, and literally as soon as I was released, I went right back to it, and that's with bond money up and my parents' trust. It wasn't the same day, but it wasn't too long after that I went right back to the same people, places, and things. And I knew I just didn't want to do that anymore, but I figured I could manage it. And, and I didn't know anybody that didn't use something. And
it was normal.
Yeah, like alcohol sold everywhere, and I didn't even have that mind frame yet that I was controlling it or anything like that. It seemed like I got into some trouble. I'm gonna be okay. I got through probation. I got 5 years probation. I didn't violate. I was using the whole time. I remember when I successfully completed, and it was drug court in Pinellas County, because Pasco County didn't have drug court yet. And I remember the judge, I was high in court, and my mom was sitting next to me, and the judge asked me to stand up, and he had me turn around to the people that were in the courtroom and told them, okay, this can be done. Somebody can successfully complete probation and get off early term and do the right thing.
And you're high.
And I was high, and my mom knew it too.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom, like, crying. And she was so angry with me. When we walked out of that courtroom, she was ready to disown me. And but she didn't give up. She helped me. Some people look at it as like enabling or helping. My mom was just doing the best she could, without putting a label on it that it's right or wrong. That's for her and not anybody else. Did it help me or hurt me? You know, I like to say it helped me, but there were some things that I've learned now, after I got clean, that for me, I shouldn't do, because I made her life a living hell.
Well, do you guys have a history of addiction in your family, or is it just...
Alcoholism, definitely, on my mom's side. My real dad was adopted when him and my uncle and my aunt, they were all adopted at the same time together when they were younger. So I don't know my dad's real side of the family.
But on your mom's side, because what I'm trying to get at is, like, sometimes you don't know how to deal with a situation until you're handed a situation. And if there's no experience on the other side from your mom's side, she doesn't know how to deal with you. So she's thinking she's helping you, but it's harming you. But nobody can see that. You can't see that. She can't see that because she's never had to deal with it.
No, and well, there's definitely no experience with recovery. Or, when I say there's addiction there or alcoholism, which for me it's about the addiction of it, not putting separate labels on it. This is different, that's different. Like, it's all inclusive for me.
Of course.
And there was nobody to help my mom.
Exactly.
She was there to help me, but there was nobody to help her.
Exactly.
And that continued, man. I got arrested, I don't even know, so many more times, tickets, driving on suspendeds. Every time, I sold vehicles. My mom would help me get a vehicle. I'd get a job. And every time I was on probation. I was on probation for 8 years. And 3 separate times.
8 years.
12 years of using, 8 years of it, I was on probation. So the police were doing their job. Like, they caught me. I wouldn't say if I got in trouble for everything that I did, I definitely wouldn't be here. So I'm grateful for the times now that I got arrested. But at the time, I didn't get it. I figured I would snap out of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot to do with control. Like, I wanted control. I didn't want help. I mean, people offered help along the way. When I was in drug court, I had a counselor, and he tried to help me. He offered help, and I lied to him. While I was going to this drug class I was using, and I stayed after class and got there early and talked to him and manipulated him to believe that I wasn't, that I was there for help. Mm-hmm. So I was able to manipulate and lie to people and let them know that I wanted help, but I didn't, to show them, just so I could get through it. And I remember in 2009, when I first moved to Florida, I started playing baseball, and I met somebody that lived near the baseball field, and his name's Nick. And I was 11 years old, he was 10, and he looked up to me as his big brother. I was pretty good at baseball. He wasn't that good, but he loved to play like I did.
Yeah.
And so him and I got real close, and he became like my brother, just as close as I am, and how much I love my family. I loved him. And somewhere around like 2006 or so, he started using, and we ran into each other. I hadn't talked to him in a year or so, a couple of years. He knew what I was doing, and he stayed away from me, and he started using. So, we started using together, and I used with him. And I mean, I love Nick, and like, I would do anything for him, but like, the addiction and the drugs took first place over that, and in 2009 he overdosed, and they called it an accidental overdose. He had left, I moved out, he had left we lived together, and he left to go to a detox, and I was happy for him. You know, as much as him and I like work good together for the addiction and using, we weren't helping each other doing anything but that. And I was happy for him, you know, and I stayed away from him. And, you know, it wasn't long after that I got a call at like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning that he had passed. And from that point on until the day I got clean, like I didn't want to live anymore. I wanted to die. You know, I was just too scared. I was too scared to do it myself. I was scared that my family was going to find out that I did it, and I saw the pain, his parents, I saw the pain that it brought on them, and I couldn't find any other way to do it myself besides drugs, but I didn't want to do that to my family.
Yeah.
So about 3 days after he passed, first of all, I want to say this is I didn't even go to his funeral, you know, and when I got clean, that's something that ate me up inside, you know? And I was waiting to get drugs, and I missed his funeral.
I mean, it's the first thing in your life. You know, you put it over everything. I mean, just like he did, just like you did, just like you just said, you know?
Yeah. And like I beat myself up for that. I didn't like his parents. I couldn't speak to them. There was no words that I could say to them because I had already blamed myself for all of it, you know. And that was hard, man. And that was really hard. But after the funeral was the first time that I overdosed. And it was like, I think it was Christmas Eve or so. Like I went to the doctor. I had my prescriptions. And I went in the bathroom of a Walgreens on 52, and I made the decision that I was just going to do it. I didn't want to live anymore. And when I woke up, I was at my mom's house on Christmas Eve. Some guy an older gentleman had found me, pulled my ID out of my back pocket, and my address, which I had none, was still my mom's. So he I don't remember any of it. He dragged me into his car and drove me to my mom's and knocked on the door. And I was barely breathing.
That's kind of weird that he wouldn't call 911.
Yeah. I think he told my mom said he didn't want me to get in trouble.
No.
And, you know, because before, you know, and recently things have changed. If somebody overdoses and you drive them, you know, they want to detain you, search you.
Yeah.
And if you have anything on you, or they charge you with it, you know. But now the way things are changing, because like a lot of the stigma is being lifted off addiction, that they see that they can't arrest their way out of it.
Yeah, they need help more than anything.
I mean, I'm proof.
Yeah.
You know, like you can put me in jail as many times you want, but until somebody's ready,
Yeah.
you know, to ask for help and surrender, like you were saying,
that word.
it's difficult. You said you think it was difficult for you, like when I was talking to you about it. A lot of, like for me too, the whole time I was using was just insanity.
Of course.
And I didn't want to admit it. You know, and so I remember when I woke up, I had just gotten a prescription, and I said, "Where's the rest of my pills?" And my mom said, "I flushed them down the toilet," and I knew she hadn't. And I told her, "If you don't give them to me, I'll never speak to you again." She said, "If you want them, I'll never speak to you again. You know, Nick just died. Your sister had to come in here every 5 minutes and hold a piece of paper over your face to see if you were still breathing on Christmas Eve." It was either Christmas Eve or the day before that. And still, it didn't hit me because I didn't care. I only wanted one thing, you know. It was, I didn't want to live anymore, but I didn't want to do it without drugs, you know. If I was living, I was going to be using.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that continued. And the last time that I got arrested, and like I'm grateful for the police, and I'm grateful for probation. As many times as I was on it, and as long as I was, now looking back, I realized that it saved my life. I got a break from, you know, killing myself. And I had overdosed. I really was going to do it this time. I went to my mom's my sister's house. My mom was at work, and I said goodbye to my sister and my nephews, and I had a drug on me that I never tried before, and I knew it was killing people. And so I was crying, and my sister was standing at the door, and she was like saying goodbye to me, but I know she didn't understand because I didn't tell her what I was going to do. And I ended up using in front of my sister's house, my mom's house, and I got 1 block away, and I overdosed while driving. And a guy found me in his front yard and called 911. I was unresponsive. I wasn't breathing. I didn't know any of this until after I got arrested. Well, when I woke up, I was being revived by Pasco County Fire Rescue. And I don't really remember anything else until probably 3 or 4 days later, and I woke up in jail. And I didn't ask why I was there. Like
you kind of know, huh? A little bit.
I was happy to be alive.
Yeah.
I knew what was coming. I knew withdrawals was coming. I knew I'd gotten arrested. Probably prison or probation was on its way, and I didn't care. I just didn't care anymore, you know. But I felt okay. You know, I still had the will to live. And I watched one of the guys that shared before, I'm going to mention another person that was on here, but the guy Johnny that was on here.
Yeah.
He said he was scared that he wasn't going to want to live anymore, that fear. He wasn't scared to go to prison or jail or probation, and I wasn't either.
It was like a relief.
Yeah, but I had the only fear that I had that I was going to lose the will to live, because like I told you, I couldn't do it myself. You know, I just couldn't do it. You know, I tried, but I still had a will to live. But I just didn't know how to live, you know, or get back from where I was to somewhere different.
Yeah.
So I wake up, another person you did an interview with, James.
Yeah, James.
I wake up 3 days after being arrested, and James is in my face, and he's smiling. He's happy. And I'm like, at first I was excited to see somebody that I knew, because I had known James from school and from using as well. And like I'd known his story. Like I knew his story before I had heard it in recovery. And so he told me that he had went to a meeting in jail, and they were going to let him out. He thought he was going to prison. They put him on drug court, and he was going to go to meetings when he went out. For some reason, something in the meeting just clicked. Like he felt like he could relate to those people. And by him saying that, a little piece of me felt hope. A little piece, because I knew he was just like me. I knew it in my heart. Like we had done all the same things, and we were both in the same place. So I remember I told my mom that when I got out, I was going to try the same thing. And so when I got out, my mom handed me the phone and said, "Call James." You know, part of me was almost wishing he wasn't in meetings anymore, because before I got out, I had a plan that's what I was going to do. I was scared. I didn't know what was going to happen. You know, the fear of the unknown.
Oh, yeah.
That's hard. And I remember laying in bed in jail the whole time, planning the rest of my life, you know. And so I got out, and thank God my mom was there for me again. And she handed me the phone and said, "Call James," and I went to a meeting. And, you know, I'm so grateful. Like, what are the odds of that?
James said a lot of paths for people to get in recovery. For sure. And because he believed in it.
Yeah, and somebody else believed in it enough to bring it into jail.
Exactly. You know, and that's the hope.
Yeah, and I never heard the word hope or gratitude before recovery.
It's like surrender.
Yeah, people were probably saying it, but I wasn't listening.
Yeah.
And so I went to my first meeting, and it was either my first or second meeting, because I still had a lot of damage, like psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, and I still felt like I didn't belong. I couldn't look anybody in the eyes. When I went to meetings, like I literally sat like this the whole time. And I went until this meeting when I went to, somebody was celebrating 2 years clean. And I would see people pick up key tags, and I still didn't believe that was me, that I could do it, but I kept going. Like I felt like I belonged there though, but this guy shared that his little brother had overdosed a year before he got clean, and he was so dope sick that he missed his brother's funeral. And when he said that, I remember James was sitting a seat or 2 seats next to me, and I broke down and just started like crying. I got so emotional, and that, I believe, was another, like, my surrender. You know, like I felt like there was somebody out there that went through the same thing that I did in that particular situation. Because everyone in that room, when I'd hear him share, my mind was closed. I didn't want to listen because nobody had said that thing that clicked.
Yeah.
You know, I still, like, that was me. That was me telling myself I didn't belong. And when I heard that, I started going to meetings, 2 or 3 meetings a day. My mom, like I said, I'm so grateful for her. I love her more than anything in the world. And she has been there through the worst and the best times. And, you know, I got a job somewhere when I got clean. I started going to, you know, they said go to 90 meetings in 90 days.
Yeah.
I did all that. I waited a few months to get a sponsor because they say, like, look around to see somebody that has what you want. And I didn't know what I wanted. So, like, how am I going to go around and find somebody that has what I want? But it was a spiritual thing. My gut told me who to ask to sponsor me.
Now, touch on the 90 meetings in 90 days. What's so important about the 90 meetings in 90 days to you?
Well, for one, me trying to get clean and having a lot of time on my hands, you know, doing nothing. Like, when I first got clean, every second felt like an hour in my mind. So replacing, and it got me into a good habit of doing things and just breaking that habit, that cycle of using. And that, you know, because I used every day. I used all day, every day. So for me to fill that void that you were talking about with something spiritual, something good for me, even if it was just an hour a day, you know. And early on in recovery, I did 2 or 3 or 4 meetings a day because I wanted more.
Yeah.
You know, and I wanted those feel goods.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, like, that was the most important thing. It was an hour that I wasn't using, you know, and I didn't know it. I didn't know what was going on, but that change was starting, that people were giving me something that I couldn't do myself. And, you know, I got a sponsor. I started working steps. I was working on that relationship with my family, with my parents, you know, because during my addiction, I'd stolen. Not only did my parents help me, I ended up stealing thousands and thousands of dollars from them. And I never thought, I was still staying clean though, and because I was doing it for me. I knew, in the back of my mind, I never thought I could ever repair that relationship, but I knew I had to try. And my mom was always forgiving, so, you know, and I was worried, my dad, my stepdad, I was more worried about that. So, you know, I started doing steps. I got a job, and I was surrounded by people that were getting high, and I stayed. I stayed as long as I could, until it started affecting me. So, you know, and I shared about it. I told my sponsor, I told my mom, I told my dad, and my parents offered me a job back working with them, who I had, you know, stolen thousands of dollars from a couple of years earlier. And I never thought that was possible. And it was because recovery, and I was being honest. I knew that I needed help, and I was asking for it. You know, I think that was the hardest thing for me, was to ask for help. You know, I knew I needed help. You know,
It's another thing to ask, though.
but to humbly ask somebody for help and like having the humility to do what I'll help you, but this is what you got to do. To be able to do what they did or what they're telling you to do, that's hard.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially in that I got this mentality.
yeah, and I've had that in recovery. I still get that today. But through working steps and having a good support group, and making those amends after I got clean. Now the first thing that I did though, like, I surrounded myself with people that wanted to stay clean. I mean, I drove people to meetings every day. Like, I would pick up as many people as I could to help them. If they needed a ride, I picked them up. I got the biggest vehicle to fit as many people as I could to try to get as many people that wanted to go to a meeting. And then I started sponsoring guys. I started working steps, and then when my sponsor told me, okay, now it's time, after my first year clean, he said, that one's on us. Now it's on you. So now you need to help other people. And I'm grateful for him too, like him guiding me and helping me and to help other people. So I started sponsoring guys, and before I knew it, I was sponsoring 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys. And it started to become too much.
Yeah.
And I had too many. But my sponsor also told me that not everybody will get it at the same time. So I like I said, my parents trusted me again. I had my sister, I had keys to my sister's house. I did so much damage to my sister. She was, as much as she's a pain in my ass, and she gets on my nerves sometimes. When I look back, I realize that her and my mom were there for me the whole time through my addiction. My sister never closed her door to me. She always would give me food if I needed it. I mean, there was a point where towards the end of my addiction that I was homeless and I was sleeping behind a dumpster. And, looking back, I look at those days that I slept behind that dumpster, and I think to myself, like, my mentality then is I'm okay. I literally was sleeping behind a dumpster when it was raining, had to flip the lids back so that I could go to sleep and not get wet, and I still told myself I was okay. And now I realize I wasn't okay. So, like I said too, is I stopped when I was in jail. Just to backtrack a second, when I was in jail, and I got that discovery, and attached to it was the EMT fire rescue report. That's what really made me. I realized that I had stopped breathing for, they said, 4 to 6 minutes. So when I saw that, because as many times as I tried to use it and I didn't want to live anymore, seeing that in black and white, that if they weren't there to revive me, I would not be here. I realized that I had to do everything that I could to try to make amends and live and try to be happy.
Yeah, chase your recovery as much as you chase the dope.
Yeah.
And maybe you weren't okay.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing too, acceptance with how things were. And the steps really did that for me. Recovery has done that for me. It's given me the opportunity to be realistic and to be in reality. I created so many personalities with myself, whoever I was around. I did what they did. I liked what they liked. I didn't know who I was, but
that's a lot of addicts' mentality, is a chameleon almost form. We're chameleons.
Yeah.
We can be a bunch of different things, hang out with a bunch of different crowds, whatever we need to be just to fit in.
Yeah, and now today I'm one person. Early in recovery I wasn't, and I would be around certain people and act different, but I was learning to be responsible and figuring out who I was and trying to figure out my purpose. And before this, you asked me, what's the main point of your recovery or your story? That's my purpose.
You would need to find your purpose.
Yeah, and another thing too is so I realized when I got into recovery that the people that had what I wanted were helping other people, and they didn't get clean and go into recovery and then not be in recovery, and that's okay too. For people that don't go to meetings all the time, that's just, or don't stay involved in recovery or service, that's okay, because there's other service in life I've figured out that you have to pay attention to as well. But the main thing that I love about recovery is, last year I was accepted. I had to wait 5 years to be, after my charges, to be accepted back into the jail. Where I didn't get to go to a meeting in jail because they had canceled the meeting when I was in there after James got out, so I wasn't able to go to a meeting. But James had. So, and I never been to a rehab or detox. Not one time was I humble enough to ask for help or thought I needed it. So jail was my recovery, was my detox or rehab. So now we're not able to go in there now because of what's going on. But
Yeah.
I ran into somebody at a halfway house a couple weeks ago when I was sharing there that was in jail and heard me share in jail when I brought a meeting in there. And on the way here, I was thinking about that too, about my purpose. And because it doesn't matter if you're clean or you're using or not, you lose your way sometimes, and you don't do it all the time, but recovery gives me that choice to find my way back to it.
Yeah.
And I can't wait till I can go back into jail and help people. But also too is my mom, my family. My mom is like my best friend, and she's still there for me. And when I first got clean as well, I thought buying cars and all those outside things is what mattered. And to be honest with you, they don't. They don't matter. Do I have some nice things? Yes. Do I hold them of value higher than other things in life? No, I don't. I have my own home. I have a house now. I'm engaged to someone who's in recovery too, which is hard.
It is hard.
It was hard, because she has her own story as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's...
and we're hoping we can have her on here to share her story as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd
hopefully.
be awesome.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get into her story, but hers and our stories are intertwined for the last 4 or 5 years, and not all of it was good.
Sunshine and rainbows?
Yeah.
No?
And not all in recovery. I was, but a lot, she has her own story, and it was hard, but another thing is too, is recovery has given me the ability to be on the other side of addiction and help other people, but also be loving and caring and be there for other people, but also take care of myself and realize what is helping and what is hurting other people.
It's loving and caring to yourself as well.
Yeah, I always got to take care of myself first.
Self-care is very important.
In a selfless way.
Yeah, of course.
Of
course. That can get twisted real quick.
Yeah, no, it does. And
it does.
It's hard. It's a balance.
That word.
Yeah, it's hard. And also, sponsoring you.
Yeah.
You mentioned that. I've had, I can't even count how many sponsees. Not all of them stay clean. And a couple of them aren't here anymore. And that's the hard thing too, is getting close. The greatest things in recovery that I've gotten, like I said, are those relationships with my family, my friends, my sponsor, my sponsees. But also the other side of that is when you lose them.
Yeah.
When you can't help somebody when they don't want help. That's the other side of it.
And we were those people as well.
Exactly.
And who knows when they'll be ready, like you and me.
Yeah. And I'm able to put myself in my mom's shoes.
Yeah.
And that also tells me that my amends to my family won't stop. You know, and until I die, I need to make amends, continue just for today, and make amends to my family, you know, and myself as well, you know, for that damage. So, you know, I don't know, like recovery has given me, and somebody else shared on here too. It's funny how a lot of us in recovery use the same verbiage, and we always use the same words. I was watching the people that were on here before, and I was like, man, those are my words. You know, those awareness
yep.
and perspective.
Oh yeah.
And but it's true. Like recovery has given me a different perspective on life, and you know, they say living a life beyond your wildest dreams, and like,
it's the truest statement I think there is.
It is where I'm like, I can be my best asset or my own worst enemy. You know, and recovery allows me to get out of my own way.
So, you know, amazing story, dude. I'm so grateful for you, because I remember my first early recovery. I was that little bitch, you know, and I needed you like to guide me, and that's what's so important about a sponsor. And like, you saved my ass, because like I was just so lost, but I knew I needed change, you know, same way with you, you know, and you guided me to the steps and helped me so much, you know. So I appreciate you coming on here and sharing. If you had one thing to tell your younger self, what would that be? Just one thing.
Well, I mean, I'd like to tell you that I'd like to warn my former self about certain things, but to tell you the truth, I wouldn't listen. I would just tell myself not to give up. You know, just things are going to get difficult, and then things are going to get good, but just don't give up, because I really don't believe if I told myself not to do some of the things, and I wouldn't have what I have today. You know, I don't think I would be the person I am today, as honest and caring and loving and responsible and as happy as I am today, if all those things didn't happen. You know, I know it
makes sense.
It makes sense. Some people may say it's corny or it's not the truth, but it is. Like, because I've learned now that each one of those things made me who I am today.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you. And that concludes this episode of The Hope Shot. Roy, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you.
If you like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Give us a like, a comment. Let us know what you think. But stay tuned for next episode next Wednesday. And this has been your Hope Shot.